falls bright and early. But lucky we're in Alaska because the daylight is incredibly early, and so we're going to enter the bay about 5 a.m. Holcomb Bay is our entry point, and we go. It's a little nerve-wracking for the pilots because we go over a shallow bar, and so we have to make our progress. It's no problem, but for them, you know, they're always concerned about safety.
Good morning, Star Princess. It is 5:30 in the morning. We are here in the M1 and we're about to go film Tracy Arm for you.
Well, the bridge is in what is in a high level of concentration and manning. There are more people, obviously, in that particular scenic cruise than when we are in open sea. And the reason behind is because we are now sailing into a narrow passage with rock on each side of the ship. So we have to be very focused and very certain of what we do and how we navigate this area.
Tracy Arm is a fjord and a fjord is a naturally carved body of water that was carved by glaciers over the eons of time. A long time ago, about 50% of Alaska was completely covered with ice sheets, kind of like Antarctica, not quite as extensive during the height of the ice ages. And as they retreated, they left their fingerprints, so to speak, and the scenery of Alaska is all written in the landscape. And so a glacier, again, is a U-shaped valley, and it moves down the path of the glacier. As it retreated back, it left that beautiful body of water. Then after the ice melted, the fjords, the waters rose and created the waterways that we're traveling in. And a lot of Southeast Alaska is glacially carved fjords.
Tracy Arm Fjord is give or take about 60 miles south of downtown Juneau, so where the ships are all docked. We head south in Stevens Passage and we hook a nice left turn there into Tracy Arm. If you continue on straight, kind of skirting out of Stevens Passage, you would continue down Endicott Arm, which is another neighboring glacial fjord, so about 60 miles south of Juneau.
There'll be Holcomb Bay. We're going to go up the north side, up the Tracy Arm, and then there's another side called Endicott Arm. And we'll have a small glacier hanging over the mountainside when we get to Holcomb Bay. We'll see it's Sumdum, S-U-M-D-U-M, Sumdum Glacier. And then we'll start our process into Tracy Arm, and we'll make our way. And at the headland of the Tracy Arm is the Sawyer Glaciers, north and south Sawyer Glaciers, and at the other end is the Dawes Glaciers at the other fjord. Now the bigger ships, believe it or not, there's bigger ships than this one, are going to be going up the Endicott, but we're going to go up the prettier arm, the Tracy Arm. It's a requirement by law. just as we had pilots in British Columbia, we have pilots here in Southeast. They're experts on navigation. And they, in their minds, they know every little nuance of the travels that we do, every little rock and possible problems. And so they're the experts on navigation. And they'll be up on the bridge controlling the ship that controls the con, with the captain and his team there. But it is a requirement by Alaska law that we have a pilot on board anytime we're in what we call the inside passage.
Oh, will be less than the cable, so less than 100 meter each side. Oh, you're very close. And there is a point you have to do an S-turn, so you do the S-turn to, close to land. So for the people that watch it sometime on TV, because outside is cold, and you see us going towards a mountain, without seeing that you have to turn, you have to make the turn to go on the other side.
So the Tracy Arm Excursion is going to start bright and early. We're all going to meet in the Capri dining room. It's in the middle of the ship on deck 5. We're going to gather there. We're going to separate you by boat so everyone arrives with the entire party, so you can be on the same boat. Then once we get the go-ahead from the captain that it is safe to board the vessel, that vessel comes alongside the ship, and then we'll escort you down all the way to deck number 3, which is quite an experience because not many guests get to go down to deck number 3. And then from there, the vessel is going to pull alongside, and then we'll start boarding the passengers boat by boat, and then off we go onto the excursion.
Good morning, Star Princess. The time right now is 6:35 in the morning. I'm standing in front of the Capri dining room right now, and I am about to board the Tracy Arm Tour to see what wildlife and what nature we can find.
Make sure all of you have your tickets and cruise cards.
Engage your senses. That means go out, feel the environment, feel the cool air, feel the mist if it's misty, feel the sunshine, smell, taste, feel it, taste it, and just be surrounded with your senses. Let your senses open up and be a chance for discovery. Okay, there's a chance to discover wildlife and see things that you don't normally see. So my suggestion is put down the cell phones unless you want to put it on airplane mode so you can take photographs. But forget about, all those cares of the world. You don't need a text or anything this next couple hours that we're there. So you need to live in the moment. Carpe diem, live in the moment, seize the moment. And then I think do something amazing. What I mean by that is look for that special moment in time that you can capture on a photograph or on video that you want to share with somebody. So when you go back to wherever you live, wherever they live, they can share that experience, and maybe they'll stimulate somebody to come up Alaska.
So seeing the glaciers is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. To see them, it's very beautiful. Hopefully you get the chance to see the carvings of the glacier. It'll literally take your breath away. Because unfortunately, due to the size of our ship and how much ice there is in the Tracy Arm Fjord, we are limited, the ship is limited to how far it can actually go into the fjord. So that's why we have this excursion to offer, so the guests can get a real experience of getting right up close with the glacier and see all that wildlife around there.
So glaciers are compact snow, more or less. Lots of snow falls on ice fields, and eventually the pressure compacts it into ice, pushing out all the air bubbles. And that overflow of ice in the ice field, when there's just a bit too much in there, is what turns out to be a glacier. It carves its way through solid rock and eventually starts melting and retreating back to where we see them today. So it's very, very compact ice, as opposed to just frozen water. It's compressed snow. Glacial ice is very, very pressurized. It's under a lot of pressure as it moves its way down its valleys.
There's a lot of chance of the seals, some little baby seals, all on the different icebergs as we're getting up nice and close with the glacier. So you get a chance to see those seals on those different icebergs.
So harbor seals travel into the glacial fjords for protection. They give birth to their little pups there because the orcas, killer whales, they don't tend to come into the glacial fjords. The water is very silty, rich in all that sediment that's been ground up under the pressure of the glacier, and that can be very irritating to the eyes of animals, to the gills of fish, and all the ice in the water can be a little bit confusing for orcas utilizing their echolocation. So they don't tend to come in there. Therefore, the seals go in there, utilize that as a safe haven to give birth to their little pups. They raise them and wean them in as little as 3 to 4 weeks, and then head on out to the more nutrient-rich waters to feed and kind of begin the whole process once again.
There's a lot of chance of seeing the different whales, like humpbacks. If you're really lucky, you'll get to see some orcas.
The only large whale species that we get out here, or typically see out here, is going to be your North Pacific humpback whale. It's the largest species that we see out here and just about the 7th largest in the spectrum of the whale world. We sometimes get really lucky and we'll see orca whales as well. It's a pretty rare sighting, probably less than a 10% chance, just because they move very quickly through these waters. So the odds of us being out here at the exact right time while they are out here ends up being slim, but we can see them. We've got a couple small porpoise species as well. We can see harbor porpoise and Dahl's porpoise out here as well. And those are the main cetacean species that we could see in our waters. So humpback whales on average are about 40 to 50 feet long, which is just about the length of your average school bus in America. It's also about the length of the coach buses that often drive you around on different excursions from your cruise ship. And they're about the weight of 7 full-grown male African elephants, which is just about anywhere from 60 to 80,000 pounds in weight. So very large, heavy, and dense animals.
There's so much uniqueness about Alaska that I love, and so that, you know, for me, there's such an abundance of wild, beautiful places. The fact that there's very little ever human habitation there. There was an old native village there at one time. There's an old fox farm that was there. There was a gold mine that had a little bit of operation for a few years. Other than that, it's really just been dedicated to wild Alaska nature. And it's only been the last handful of years that the big ships have been going in there, because there's a number of ships in here now. We can't all go to Glacier Bay at the same day. We can't all go to Hubbard Glacier. So this is a beautiful alternative, and it's just a few 60 miles south of Juneau, so very easy for us. And it's really one of the highlights of any Alaska experience.
My favorite part of the tour is very hard to choose. I would say seeing the glaciers is breathtaking in itself. It was a wonderful experience.
But places like Tracy Arm Glacial Fjord is also one of my favorite things, because it's just a very unique and pristine area of nature that few people ever have a chance to see. And I feel very fortunate that not only do I get to see it quite a bit, but I get to take some people out there for what could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see such amazing, beautiful glaciers while they're still here, still around, and of course all of the beautiful nature and wildlife that kind of surrounds these areas.
I think the serenity of Alaska, the fact that it's still somewhat a wild place. You know, we do have, like for example, Juneau, state capital, is 30,000 people. Come on. You know, any city around any of the country is a lot more than that. So it is a remote place. It's one of the last true frontiers. It's abundant wildlife, fresh air. It's a way that we can expose ourselves to nature, nature at some of its finest. And a lot of people need to get away and experience someplace like this that it brings out happiness, it's magical, there's a lot of things to different people. So to me, I can't imagine my summers anywhere else.